boys and girls. We are going to be reading the next chapter of your Ancient Rome Reader. We have heard about the Roman Republic and some of the ways that Rome was founded. Today we're going to start learning about some of the wars that Rome fought in that were much larger and became kind of more of an empire at the end of these wars. So I will present my screen to show you our reader as we read along with the Punic Wars is what the name of this was. Can you say Punic Wars? Kind of sounds like puny, but the Punic Wars is a famous grouping of 3 wars that Rome fought with Carthage. So I'm actually going to show you, first of all, a map of the area that we're looking at today. Okay, so here it says First Punic War. So Rome is on this western coast of Italy. Carthage is what we're going to be looking at today, which is on the continent of Africa. I know it's hard to tell here, but this is on the continent of Africa. And we're going to be finding out about the wars that take place between these 2 countries. So let's switch over to our book. Chapter 4, the Punic Wars. Now, in its early days, Rome was a small city with a small army. This army was made up of Roman citizens and included both patricians and plebeians. It was a great honor to be in the army and defend the city of Rome. The Romans fought some of their neighbors. When the Romans conquered an army, and to conquer means that you win control of land by attacking and defeating a different city or country. So when they conquered an enemy, they took control of that land and the people living there. So if they, going back to our map for a moment, if they were at battle with Carthage here and they won, they were able to get all that land, and they ended up having the people living there as basically their slaves. So, or prisoners of war, basically. So it says by the year 265 BCE, the army had conquered most of the Italian peninsula. In 264 BCE, the Romans went to war against Carthage. Now, Carthage, which was a powerful nation located across the Mediterranean Sea on the coast of northern Africa. Today, the city of Tunis stands where Carthage once stood. Now, Rome is still a city today. It's not really the country and empire that it once was. It's just a city. Carthage no longer exists. So now it's Tunis in Africa. This just shows you. And going over to our map again, you can already start making some predictions that if they're fighting a war between these cities, and actually this is really more of a nation, they will have to cross the Mediterranean Sea, and they need ships to be able to really have most of these battles. Okay, back to our book. It says these wars against the Carthaginians, that's a tough one to say, but can you repeat that after me? Carthaginians. Good. All of this, the groupings of wars are called the Punic Wars. The name comes from Latin, the language spoken by the Romans. The Latin word punicus means Carthaginian. So it really is the Carthaginian Wars, but they called them the Punic Wars. So a Punic War was between Rome and Carthage. Since Rome and Carthage went to war 3 times, these wars are called the First, Second, and Third Punic Wars. They were fought between the years 264 BCE and 146 BCE. So the First Punic War. And remember that BCE stands for before Common Era. And so this is before the time of Jesus Christ. That's still the time period that we're in. Now, the First Punic War was different from any war the Romans had fought before. Carthage was a rich nation with a large navy. When the First Punic War began, Carthage had 500 fighting ships. So we already know Rome is going to become a huge empire. But at the time that we're talking about, 264 BCE, this is Carthage was a much wealthier and stronger nation. When the First Punic War began, they had 500 fighting ships, and Rome had no navy at all. They had an army, but they didn't have a navy. They didn't have these fighting ships. The Romans were determined to win. They built warships and learned to fight at sea. They learned to fight in formation. Now, formation is an orderly arrangement, like rows or in a line. So they had a very good strategy, even if their people were less. We'll find out more about these formations later. They trained tens of thousands of sailors to man their warships. They fought the Carthaginians for 23 long years. When the First Punic War ended in 241 BCE, the Romans had won. They had less people, they had less ships, but they had a good strategy, and that's why they were able to win. At the end of the First Punic War, a young Carthaginian boy waited for his father to return from battle. Can you say Hannibal? Good, Hannibal. His father was an important leader in the Carthaginian army. Hannibal wanted to be a soldier just like his father. More than anything, he wanted to fight against the Romans. When Hannibal's father returned, he became a commander of Carthage's army. He then conquered the rich lands along the northwest coast of the Mediterranean. Today, this area is Spain. So that's what he conquered, going back to our map. Okay. This is the part that was conquered. When he was just 9 years old, Hannibal went to Spain with his father and the army. Hannibal grew up to be an excellent soldier, just like his father. When he was 26 years old, Hannibal took command of the Carthaginian army. Hannibal was a great general. He was brave and clever in battle. He treated his men fairly and earned their respect and loyalty. So he already has a good understanding of the relationship between Carthage and Rome. He has seen his father fight in this First Punic War. We're going to read about the Second Punic War next time. Before we do, though, here is a picture of one of the most famous Roman army formations, which is like a tortoise. So they have shields on all sides, including the top. Can you imagine, or can you think of why they might need to have protection along the top of them? So an enemy army might shoot arrows down, and so that's covering for their heads. So they've covered all sides of it except for this little opening here. They've covered all sides with shields as they're moving forward. So very smart, very clever. The Romans were known for having really wonderful army strategies. But we'll find out about some of Carthage's army strategies next time. That is all for today. You will have some notes to take on this, and I will talk to you later. Bye.